What a time to be in for both readers and authors. And the reason I say this is because there has been a recent controversy surrounding Sophie Lark's book, uh, what was it called? Sparrow and Vine. I'm going to have a couple opinions on this, and I'm also going to have my thoughts on my writing. Now, before you assume anything, wait until later in the video. I have some thoughts that A, scare me, and B, terrify me. So, for one, Sophie Lark, just to give you a brief rundown, and I'll do my best to have visual representation of some of this. So, Sophie Lark's book, Sparrow and Vine, has dialogue in it that is very insensitive to how things are in the world right now. One, because there was a quote from the book, and I'm reading from an article I have up. I was inspired by Elon Musk. I use his 5-step design process. Do you not know what is going on in the United States of America right now? Do you not realize that talking about that person is a bad idea? Maybe like 15 years ago, when all we had to worry about was him putting out another freaking car was a thing. Or maybe I'm ignorant and I don't know what was going on 15 years ago, because for the longest time I chose to be ignorant and oblivious. But do you really think that talking about him right now is a good idea? But then there's also another line in the book by the male main character, which is a thought process. My wife pointed out that this is supposed to be a thought process by the character. The character thinks, I don't want to sound ignorant, but shouldn't there be a crew of people with questionable work visas picking these grapes for us? What I'm about to say ties into what I'm going to talk about later in the video. If you are not writing a historical fiction, you shouldn't be writing stuff like that, in my opinion. Now, she's writing a romance book, and I understand that she wants to write a flawed character. I get that. As a fellow writer, I get it. But you also have to take into consideration a couple things. One, the state of society as we are in right now. Two, how sensitive people can be with what's going on. And three, it's not the time. And honestly, the way I'm seeing things, I don't know if it ever will be the time. I also want to point out that, not in defense of Sophie herself, but in defense of writers as a whole, we are constantly taught to create characters that are not like us, because you don't want to keep writing stories that you're putting yourself into as a character. I will admit, in my second work in progress that I talk a lot about, the contemporary adult romance, there are bits and pieces of me in almost every single character. Almost. But I'm not writing myself. Shane has aspects of me. Ryan has aspects of me. Tala, she has aspects of me. Sophie has one or two things similar to me. At the same time, they're not me. It's just little sprinklings, right? But we are constantly taught as writers from so many different gurus and teachers and just a bunch of people sharing their thoughts and their knowledge about the writing craft and stuff like that, that we are not supposed to write ourselves in these books. Obviously, I don't know Sophie, and I barely knew any of her work before this happened over the last week and a half. I know people that have read her books, but that's all I know and remember at this point. She is not writing her thoughts and her feelings and how she feels about things in society right now. She's literally writing characters, creating characters that have their own thoughts, their own personalities, their own Enneagram, their own personality type, the whole 9 yards. Isn't that what we are taught? Those are things that we are taught. At least those are the things that I've seen in the years of content that I have consumed about the writing craft from so many different authors of different genres and everything else. I say all that not to defend Sophie, because obviously what she wrote in those lines is not okay in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, when do we say there's an author and there's a character and there's no blending? I want to say this and lead into what scares me about all this. One, good on Bloom, her publisher, and Chapters and Goodreads and Barnes & Noble and Amazon and all these other websites for pulling the book so that Sophie can rewrite, reflect, and figure her stuff out before sending that book out into the wild again. Here's my thoughts. I'm writing 2 books, 2 separate, completely separate books. On the one hand, as you guys know, it's the adult contemporary, still no name for it. I'm still working on it, but we're going to push that aside for a moment. On this other hand, I have a historical fiction, or is contemporary historical fiction a thing? Part of the book is set in the early 1800s. The early 1800s had slavery, had racism coming out the wazoo, and so many things that are obviously not okay today. There is constant use of the N-word in this one portion of my book, or 2 portions. I don't know, I'm only on chapter like 8 or 9, so we'll see. So there's constant use of the N-word. There's constant scenes of like very violent physical torture and abuse, and there is sexism. There's like all these different themes in these parts of the books, and I'm scared because though a lot of this is historically accurate, it's also not okay today. Of course, if I have sensitivity readers, if I have a publisher, whenever I do get queries on it, if I have them and they say that maybe you shouldn't put X, Y, and Z in here, obviously I'm going to listen. At what point does it go from the author creating characters in a world completely different from our own, even though it pulls from historical times and events and people? Like, when do we let the author be the author? When it comes to my historical fiction, I am only writing about the enslavement and the abuse of the indigenous population. Why? Because I have grown up knowing that I have indigenous blood within me. I'm not going to get into that completely right now because my grandfather passed away trying to get me and my brother to get us to get our Métis cards. He had gotten his because my great grandmother came from the reserve. That's all we know. That's literally the only information we know. Because at the time, a lot of indigenous women would, if they were passing, they would go and meet a French man and completely wash away their past. And unfortunately, that happened a lot. And it seemed to have happened within my family. Anyway, all that to say is I'm not writing about other ethnicities and the torture of those ethnicities that I am not a part of. I don't know. I'm scared that when I do finish that book and I want to like dive into the query trenches and fight my way through, find myself a agent, publisher, editors, and all that, will it all be for naught? Will it be like 15, maybe 20, 25, 30 years of hard work, dedication, and passion about this one work in progress that it's not going to see the light of day, except for if I decide to print it, bind it, and like sell it to close friends and family and within my city. Like, to wrap things up a little bit, Sophie Lark messed up big time. I don't know, and I don't think I really want to know what her real thoughts and feelings are. But what I do know is the work that she has put out there is controversial and needs to be rewritten, rethought of, and maybe redistributed. But from what I'm understanding from the articles that I've read and the podcasts that I listen to, this is not her first controversy. This is her second or third. Honestly, it's looking like maybe she needs to sit down for a while. Like, lie low. Will it hurt her sales in the end? Yes, of course. But she also needs to make sure that she's bringing the best for her audience. What she's giving out right now is not what we need. Like, we don't need to be talking about people like Elon Musk. We don't need to be writing works of fiction that a racist comment like that isn't appropriate. Again, if you're writing historical fiction, and depending on the time frame of that historical fiction, maybe it's okay. Not in a romance book set in, I'm guessing, present times. That's not okay. Even if, yeah, it's a thought process, and if there was a arc where like a redemption arc where he changes his thoughts and his feelings about marginalized communities, etc., then maybe it would have been easier, but there isn't. Those are my 2 cents on this whole situation and my thoughts about my own writing and the fear I have of publishing that one work in progress someday. I don't want it to be canceled before it's even finished, before I'm even finished writing it. But I also want to stay true to the whole idea of the book that I had when I was still in high school. And I still, like, I don't want to give too much away. There's a light at the end of that written tunnel. I don't want to give too much away because it's my passion project. It's my baby. I'll give you more about my contemporary romance. I'll give you more about that. But this one, it's years in the making, and I just want it to be perfect. Perfect in my eyes so that I can bring it to you guys. But yeah, those are my thoughts on the whole Sophie Lark controversy. I'm actually going to link down below the podcast I just watched. If you guys want to watch it, go ahead. That'd be awesome. Support other creators. I'm going to dip because I do have to get to work soon. And I will see you guys in the next one. Next video is on Wednesday. I know I skipped last week. I'm sorry. It'll be a writing video, so let's stay tuned for that. And I will see you guys later. This was all over the place because I just woke up, I just made a coffee, and I decided, hey, I need to make a video for tomorrow. So let me put my 2 cents in where it probably wasn't asked for. All right, I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for supporting me. Click the links down below to support me in other ways, like following me on TikTok, following me on Goodreads, etc. And I will see you guys soon. Peace.